you guys, welcome to Tea and a Key with Carolyn. I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and I want to ask y'all to please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys came over here from Generational Viewpoints, again, I want to say thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. Today, we're going to be talking about Nene Leakes. She did a two-part interview with carlosking. The first part dropped this morning, and it was an hour and a half long. And Nene came in bright, bubbly, and she seemed to be ready to put everything on the floor. She was open to talking about whatever this man asked her. Now, first things first, Nene says she does not watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta anymore. She says she just cannot do it because she feels like she's watching people in the house that she built.
Because as far as I'm concerned, they're all sitting in my house, the house that I built. And it seemed like it's tumbling down.
And I absolutely agree with her. That house is crumbling down. I feel like the house needs a new roof. The environment is coming into the house. Trees are growing in the house. You can see through the floor, baby. It's raining on the inside, and it needs help immediately. It's almost like the Bravo executive said, let's build a show around the people that are tolerated on the show, not the people that are celebrated. Carlosking followed up and said there's no Real Housewives of Atlanta without Nene Leakes. And I feel like the Real Housewives of Atlanta could have survived without Nene, but not without Portia, Phaedra, not without everybody. Like, there has to be somebody that's going to offer some shade and some comedic relief, and there's nothing there at this moment in time. They talked about season 1 and Sheree Whitfield. Now, if you guys don't know, Sheree Whitfield admitted on carlosking's podcast, Reality with the King, that she intentionally left Nene's name off the guest list of her party in season 1. She said production was pressuring her to invite Nene to her birthday party, and Sheree said that was her home, and she didn't really want Nene there, so she took her name off of the guest list. Now, I just have to say, Sheree Whitfield ain't shit for this, but she is an ain't shit ass person. She's been that way from the beginning. Just like on a recent episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, she went to Sonya Richards Ross charity event and did not want to give to charity. How do you show up to a charity event in Balenciagas and not want to give to single mothers and children? She's just an ain't shit person, like I said. But what Sheree Whitfield didn't realize she was doing was solidifying Nene Leakes as a fan favorite. People already love the Nene, but when she did that, regular people felt like, oh, look at this mean girl, look at this rich girl who doesn't want to let a regular person into their party. But let's move on. Nene Leakes says she only made $10,000 her first season. She said the second season was $50,000, and the third season was between $100,000 and $150,000, and that is a shame. These networks really hustle their stars. They know a star when they see one, and they know if a show is going to blow up or not. She said in the beginning, everyone was stay-at-home moms, and they enjoy just getting out of the house and filming with each other and having something to do. She said they all paid for their events out of their pockets. I think it's safe to say that Bravo got 3 free seasons out of these stars. Bravo profited off of these ladies, and they are still profiting off of them today, because I have subscribed to Peacock, and I watch the old seasons all the time, so they are still getting money off of these people. They don't pay reality stars residuals. It's not right, it's not okay, and Bravo needs to pay. Now, let's move on a little bit. They talked about Cynthia when she first came on the show, and Nene says she went out to lunch and spent time with Cynthia to try and get to know her so that she could introduce her to the cast and to the audience of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And she said she did not think that Cynthia was housewives worthy until she met her husband, Peter. When she met Peter, she said, oh, that's why they hired Cynthia. But she said, don't get it twisted, because Cynthia would curse Peter out and even make him sleep at bar 1 on some occasions. Now, I just have to say, that is tough. That is crazy for a married couple, for a woman to kick her husband out of the house. I mean, normally you kicked him to the sofa, but she put him clean on out the house and made him spend nights at his restaurants. That's probably why Peter went ahead and got him an apartment in North Carolina when he opened Bar One. Cynthia, that's just crazy. You don't do that type of stuff to your husband. But they move on to Phaedra Parks, and Nene Leakes says she didn't think Phaedra should have been on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. But I feel like that's just her being territorial. She knew Phaedra was a high-powered attorney in Atlanta, and I think she just felt like, why is Phaedra jumping on my bandwagon when I'm the one who created this show? I do feel like there was jealousy there. But moving on, let's talk about her son, Bryson. Nene said she spoke to him on the phone, and she said he's been struggling with addiction for years. I feel like we didn't get to see any of that on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, although I feel like he was going through that time while she was filming the Real Housewives of Atlanta, but nobody brought it up. She said she would never wash her hands of her children, but she's numb to this at this point because she's been going through it for so long. And my thoughts on this is you can protect your children from a lot of things. You can try to protect your children from bullies, but you cannot protect your children from themselves. And when it comes to addiction and people coming out of addiction, they have to want to do it for themselves. Nobody can really talk them out of it or force them out of it. They have to come to a decision that they don't want that type of lifestyle anymore. Nene said that Bryson is married with 3 children, and that kind of broke my heart that he has 3 children and he's going through this addiction cycle. But some people say that Nene and her son have an emotional disconnect. Some people say that Bryson never felt the love that Nene gave to Brent. He kind of felt like an outsider. And I have to just look back to Nene and her biological mother's relationship. Nene was raised by her aunt, and I feel like she didn't have that emotional connection with her biological mother. And sometimes it's hard for parents to see the error in our ways of what we did wrong in our relationships with our children. Nene said that Lamar Odom and her former boyfriend, John, that she dated after her divorce with Greg, have reached out to her and offered help for Bryson. So I hope that Bryson can come to some type of realization that he needs to change his life, and seek God and, just make the right choices in life. But next up, they talked about Big Pretty, Nyoni. Nene says she did not date this man while she was still married and while Greg was still alive. She said she met this man a month after Greg passed, and she said he really helped her through that time period. She said she doesn't know how she would get along if he wouldn't have been there. A lot of people say that Nene hasn't grieved properly after Greg's death, but you never know what kind of emotional state grief can put you in. Grief can put you into a depression, and sometimes people don't come out of this. Sometimes people can die from a broken heart. So I don't want to judge her too harshly for dating this man or seeing this man right after Greg passed away. I will say in the beginning, I absolutely did judge her. I just felt like if something was to happen to my husband, they would have to throw my ass in the grave with him. So I didn't see how she was taking comfort, in the arms of another man. But that's just me. And as time has passed, I've looked at this situation differently. Now, carlosking brought up the close your legs to married men to Nene Leakes, and Nene said that Nyoni was separated when she met him. She says she doesn't know what he was telling his wife, but she can only speak on what he was telling her, and he told her he was separated, and she said he is divorced today. She says they're taking a break at the moment. She says it's not working, and her next relationship will be private, and the next man has to make more money than her. She says Nyoni makes a significant amount of money, but I'm assuming that he doesn't make more money than her. She said Nyoni wants to be front and center. He likes the fame, and Carlos brought up that it should only be 1 star per household, and she agreed with that. But I'm telling y'all, anybody with 2 eyes, let alone 4 eyes and some damn contacts, could see that this man was a clout chaser. And in the beginning, he did not even caress or look at Nene in a romantic way, so it just seemed like he was there for the ride. He very much gave off romance scammer, in my opinion, And Nene, being as vulnerable as she was at the time, just losing her husband, this man definitely took advantage of her. But let's move on a little bit further. Carlos says Portia and Kenya saved the show from being redundant. He says he felt like they changed the energy of the show. Nene says they were great additions, but the producers didn't want Portia to come back the next season because she was because of Cordell. Basically, he was holding her back. So Nene and Candy took it upon themselves to call the network and producers to save Portia Williams. You guys, we have two things left to talk about, and one of the two is Cynthia and Nene's friendship. Nene says Cynthia let people get into her head, and she felt she needed to prove that Nene wasn't running her. But at the same time, I feel like even if Cynthia tried to do that, Nene, it looked a lot like you were running her, and you told her husband that he needed to stop being a bitch. And Nene never truly apologized, never gave a heartfelt apology to Cynthia about calling Peter a B. She said, well, I didn't mean he was a B. I meant he was acting like a B. I mean, that's the same dang on thing, in my opinion. And I feel like all of this led up to Cynthia plotting against Nene. Nene said Cynthia tried to get her fired off of the show. I absolutely 100% believe it. Cynthia and Candy plotted behind Nene's back to bring Kenya Moore back to the show. And it's no damn telling what else they did behind the scenes. So I believe her 100%. She also said that Kenya was never a threat to her. She felt like Kenya was good for the show, but she never felt like Kenya was the star of the show. I don't know if I believe that. I want to thank you guys for watching. If y'all haven't already, go ahead over to Carlos King's channel and watch the full interview. Please like, comment, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see y'all on the next one.